The Zarzul swept through the stars like a virus with purpose, devouring systems and sterilizing life in precise, calculated patterns. Worlds burned without screams. Civilizations crumbled without resistance. Their fleets weren't ships, but extensions of a shared intelligence, billions of machines moving with the cruelty of math. In the final moments before the sixth capital fell, the Council of Kiro Prime sent a final message, not to allies, they had none left, but to the darkest corner of the galactic net, where whispers of ancient monsters still breathed, Earth. For eons, Earth had been labeled a red zone world. No diplomacy. No trade. No entry. Stories filtered out of the Terran wars, of primitive bipeds who used radiation and blades, who fought long after their bodies had failed. Species evolved for eons feared a species born from extinction itself. But extinction now loomed larger than fear. The message was sent. 6 words only. Send help. Immediate. Total annihilation imminent. 3 cycles passed. No reply. The Council prepared for surrender, if the Zarzul would even allow such a thing. Then the lights dimmed. All communications shut down for precisely 3 seconds. When they returned, one file sat in the queue, a single human transmission. No emblem. No encryption. It opened on its own, as if the system feared not to obey. Help received. Package inbound. Brace for contact. No other details. No timeline. No fleet signature. No diplomacy. Only those words. The Council debated if it was real. A trick? The Zarzul had never been known to play psychological games, they had no ego to toy with. Still, paranoia spread. Refugee fleets prepared to jump. Weapons were realigned, defenses doubled, and evacuation of central archives initiated. But they were too slow. On the 9th cycle, a signal pierced the sky. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't even a ship. It was a pod. Just one. It tore through the upper atmosphere of Kiro Prime, hit the ground outside the capital complex with enough force to send a shockwave across 3 provinces. The military surrounded the impact site within minutes, expecting radiation or bioweapons. Instead, the pod opened with a hiss, and 6 figures walked out. No insignias. No banners. No formal greeting. They simply walked toward the barricade as if they owned the planet. They weren't what the aliens expected. No polished armor, no gleaming tech. They wore mismatched gear, scarred armor, and carried strange weapons, half digital, half metal. One had no helmet, chewing something as he scanned the crowd. Another carried a pack that hummed unnaturally, eyes glowing faint blue under a hood. Their leader was quiet, masked, motionless, until the General of Kirill approached with an official welcome. The human ignored the hand. Instead, he scanned the horizon and spoke. "Where's your line of resistance?" The general hesitated. "What resistance?" The human turned to his team. "Figures. We're late." Kirill Council demanded answers. Were these really the Terrans? No fleet? No battalions? No orbital coverage? Just 6? The humans didn't answer questions. They issued instructions. They wanted access to satellite scans, enemy data, battlefield topography, and thermal records. They spoke in acronyms the aliens couldn't decipher. When asked their unit name, the smallest one, barely adult by alien standards, chuckled. "They don't give us names. Just coordinates." Confusion spread among the council. If this was humanity's help, it was a cruel joke. But reports began pouring in, intercepted signals, hacked drones, enemy movements exposed. Somehow, within hours, these 6 had accessed half of Kirill's most secure systems. The engineer rerouted power grids with a handheld device. The Reaper tagged and eliminated 2 enemy scouts before Kirill forces even detected them. The Butcher requisitioned a crate of mining tools, modified them, and handed them out like toys. "Gonna need these soon," he said with a grin that made even the Kirill guards shift nervously. The council held an emergency session. "They're undisciplined. Reckless. They're dangerous. One of them threatened to rewire our comm array for fun. Do we even know their mission objective? No one did. But they were the only help that arrived. Then the commander finally spoke. It was the first and last time he addressed the council directly. You called for help. We answered. We're not here to negotiate. We're not here to impress you. We're here to finish a war you already lost. Kirill's military head barked back. We needed an army, not a handful of criminals. The commander didn't blink. You didn't get criminals. You got survivors. Difference is, we don't plan on dying. Later that cycle, the humans disappeared without notice. No transports. No signals. Just gone. Until 3 hours later, when explosions lit up the enemy-held sector 60 miles from the capital. Surveillance feeds showed nothing but darkness, then flashes of light, each followed by static. Kirill's satellite feeds briefly caught a silhouette, one human figure moving at impossible speed through a ravaged outpost, leaving only silence behind. The humans had begun their work. And the galaxy, once again, remembered why Earth was never meant to be summoned. They didn't arrive like heroes. No formations, no anthem, no promises. Just 6 humans walking out of smoke and scorched ground, each moving with purpose like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Their armor was dented, unmarked, and mismatched. Their weapons looked crude by galactic standards, projectile-based, manual, brutal. The aliens watching from behind barricades whispered disbelief. This wasn't a strike force. This was a mistake. The one in front was tall, calm, with a matte black mask hiding his face. When he walked, the rest followed, no orders spoken. His presence didn't command attention, it demanded silence. Behind him, a woman scanned everything, blinking rapidly, mapping thermal grids in her vision feed. Another man flipped a knife in one hand and cracked his knuckles with the other, his armor stained red from previous missions. The youngest among them carried no visible weapon at all, just a humming backpack and gloves that buzzed with static every few seconds. A Kirill officer stepped forward to intercept them. State your identification. The masked man responded without slowing. Unit 73. Earth response. Clearance 0. That's not valid. Doesn't matter. Behind him, the one they'd later call the Butcher grinned wide. We don't do paperwork. The council tried protocol. Diplomatic channels. Orientation. The humans ignored all of it. They didn't come to blend in. They came to end something. Within 30 minutes of landing, they had already overridden access to military feeds, deactivated several outdated defense systems they deemed dead weight, and rewired part of the planetary shield grid for what they called creative use. No one asked how. They took residence not in military barracks, but in a subterranean maintenance tunnel beneath the capital. Smells like rats, one of them commented. Good. Reminds me of Earth. When alien staff protested, the engineers shut off power to their quarters remotely, smiled, and said, "Fixed the noise complaint." Their presence unsettled everyone. Kirill officers couldn't read their expressions. Their voices stayed calm in every briefing. Their eyes, when visible, never blinked too much. They didn't salute. Didn't pray. Didn't pause. They slept in shifts, always armed. They studied enemy footage like gamblers watching odds, but they didn't mourn the casualties. When told how many civilians were lost in the last Zarzal offensive, the commander simply nodded. Better than I expected. One alien aide whispered. Are they machines? The reply came from the young one without turning around. Worse. Briefings with the council became more confrontational. This mission requires a united front, one ambassador insisted. Your methods, your aggression, it's not compatible with coalition values. The commander's reply was quiet. That's why your planets are ash. No one challenged him again. When they began requesting tools, it became clear they weren't preparing for war, they were preparing for extermination. They asked for detonators, scrap metal, plasma waste, sonic disruptors, and a dozen outdated AI cores. When asked why, the engineer replied, building toys. Within a day, she'd constructed mobile decoys, malware-infused mines, and an electromagnetic pulse device that could temporarily disable both enemy and allied tech. Collateral's just a fancy word for inefficient. The butcher set up a training ring in the Capitol courtyard. He asked for volunteers. After the first session left 2 Kirill soldiers hospitalized, no one returned. He shrugged. Didn't want soft ones anyway. He began training alone, sparring against droids set to lethal settings. The Reaper disappeared for 2 days. No comms, no trace. Then a drone feed caught her perched on an orbital antenna, 300 miles from base, rifle steady. I locked to scope. Target, an enemy scout ship cloaked and inbound. 1 shot. Clean kill. She returned without a word and placed a piece of alien alloy on the table. Your sensors need work. The surgeon, unnervingly calm, began reorganizing the med bays. He removed equipment he labeled pointless, replaced alien auto-diagnostics with field kits from his pack, and rewrote the triage protocols entirely. You're wasting time asking if someone might die. Just assume they will. At night, they spoke among themselves and clipped code. No warmth. No casual stories. It was less like camaraderie and more like shared programming. They didn't laugh, didn't drink, didn't celebrate. Only the engineer showed any levity, occasionally muttering to herself or singing in off-key human melodies while soldering something destructive. Rumors spread among the Kirill civilians. Some claimed they saw the humans speaking to themselves in dark corners. Others said their shadows moved differently. One even swore that the masked commander didn't breathe. All fear, no facts. Still, the paranoia grew. And yet not a single request to remove the humans was filed. Fear outweighed discomfort. When the Zarzal launched a probing attack on the northern continent, the humans volunteered no response. They didn't attend the Emergency War Council. They didn't even acknowledge the casualty reports. When the Council finally sent someone to demand a reaction, they were met with silence, until the Reaper spoke, cleaning her rifle. You want fast reactions. We're building final ones. They operated on a different timeline. Kirill officials thought in terms of defense, attrition, and diplomacy. The humans thought in end states, kill switches, and irreversible outcomes. Where others hoped to survive, they planned to win or die doing it. When questioned on their backup, their plan, their escape options, the commander answered flatly. We don't plan for survival. We plan for results. One aide, trembling, asked, And if you fail? The response was immediate. Then Earth sends worse than us. The humans struck before the Council could even authorize engagement. There was no declaration, no strategic delay, no permission asked. They moved out at first light, splitting into pairs, each vanishing into enemy-held zones without backup or broadcast. Kirill surveillance tried to track them, failed. Their gear was invisible to local sensors, their patterns unpredictable. Within hours, the first signs of chaos appeared, enemy communications disrupted, automated patrols offline, plasma nodes detonating from within. The Zarzul responded like a cornered swarm, but for the first time in recorded conflict, they faltered. The Ghost infiltrated a forward enemy relay hub disguised in dead terrain, bypassing its layered protocols using fragments of ancient Terran code, malware so crude the AI had no defenses for it. He left messages in the system, distorted human voices, crying infants, corrupted lullabies playing on repeat. Zarzul drones turned on each other, corrupted by psychological noise they'd never been built to process. When the Kirill reviewed the logs later, all they found was one word carved into a server wall. Unlearn. The butcher entered a control outpost, no gun, just blades he'd personally forged from salvaged crash debris. He didn't speak. He didn't pause. He moved through tight corridors like a wraith, limbs a blur, cutting without elegance, only efficiency. His armor was soaked by the time the lights flickered and died, the facility's central core overrun with fire. He emerged dragging 2 deactivated AI nodes behind him, and a single line burned into the floor with a plasma cutter. Close range solved? The Reaper climbed a communications tower in the middle of a silent battlefield. Her shot dropped an enemy high commander through 2 layers of kinetic shielding, mid-transit, at 10 kilometers. No missed rounds. No second chances. When questioned later about the shot, she shrugged and said, "Wind was low." The Kirill didn't correct her. There was no wind in vacuum. The engineer built a mobile EMP unit using alien scrap, outdated reactor cores, and a discarded music player. When activated, it sent pulses synchronized with ancient Earth war songs, each beat disrupting enemy targeting systems while simultaneously corrupting their logic loops with rhythm-based distortion. Kirill tacticians couldn't understand the methodology. "It's not supposed to work," one muttered. The engineer replied, "Exactly." The surgeon performed mid-battle extraction on a downed Kirill squad surrounded by enemy drones. He walked in with 2 knives, no armor, dragged 3 wounded out under fire, and operated in a cave with nothing but field gel and thermal clamps. One patient panicked mid-surgery. The surgeon sedated him with a blow to the temple and kept cutting. All 3 survived. He returned with blood up to his elbows and said nothing. No one asked him to again. The commander coordinated it all from a broken transmitter he hijacked on day 1. Every movement synced with second-hand enemy data, field improvisation, and real-time pattern prediction. When told the enemy had launched a counteroffensive, he responded, "Let them concentrate." The trap he set was simple: false data, fake weak points, redirected heat signatures. The enemy pushed into what they thought was a soft flank. 37 automated mines detonated in sequence, collapsing a plateau. No survivors. When a Kirill officer congratulated him, he only said, "That wasn't the trap. That was the warning." They didn't rest. They didn't regroup. Each kill reinforced the myth. Alien forces started following their movements not to assist, but to learn. It didn't help. The humans changed tactics constantly. Some days brutal, others silent, some tactical, others feral. One Kirill captain attempted to mirror their movements. He returned with half his squad dead and one I lost. His only words after the mission: "We can't be them." Civilians began speaking of them with reverence and dread. Refugees whispered stories of shadows that killed silently, of humans walking through plasma fields untouched, of laughter heard over dead calms. One survivor of a liberated outpost claimed she saw the butcher walk past burning wreckage while calmly eating a protein bar. Another swore the Reaper shot 2 drones mid-fall from a crumbling bridge while upside down. The stories grew, spread like faith in the dark. The Zarzul adapted. Their next wave came heavier, stronger, built for unpredictability. The enemy had learned. But so had the humans. The ghosts led them into a false confidence by feeding them fake data trails. The engineer laced planetary comms with logic bombs that activated upon decryption. The butcher taught Kirill units to use terrain like knives, not shields. The Reaper dropped her rifle entirely and used a bow she constructed herself to fire explosive-tipped arrows in complete silence. The surgeon embedded kill protocols in the medical equipment of fallen enemy medics. When retrieved, they turned against their own. Every step forward the enemy took, the humans turned it sideways. But victory came at a cost. The ghost didn't return after the 3rd major strike. His beacon went dark near a reactor detonation zone. His last message, delivered in a scrambled transmission: "Tell the commander, File 7's running. All paths red. Burn the map." The message self-deleted 5 seconds later. No trace found. His name wasn't mentioned again, not even by his own team. Only the commander paused briefly, then added a line to his wrist display: "Ghost zeroed." The Kirill mourned him. The humans moved on. Not callous. Conditioned. Alien Command reviewed human methods and found no repeatable patterns, no doctrine, no structure. What they did find was a single recurring phrase stamped into every hack system, weapon, and repurposed enemy node: "Adapt or die." The humans were writing a manual in real time, one the rest of the galaxy couldn't follow. And as the body count rose, it became clear: Earth hadn't sent soldiers. It had sent its problems. And problems don't retreat. They resolve. One way or another. The Zarzul learned fast. Their algorithms rebuilt the last 10 engagements in under a day and adjusted. Human tactics that once shredded them began to fail. Traps were spotted. Signals were blocked. Units deployed with new countermeasures tuned to Earth-style aggression. The humans didn't panic. They adapted. It started with static on all shared comms. Then came coordinated strikes. The enemy stopped attacking en masse and began targeting support routes, cutting supply corridors, intercepting Kiro reinforcements before they even deployed. The Ghost's old infiltration paths were sealed, mind-guarded. Human precision was met with mirrored unpredictability. Something new had evolved within the Zarzal core, a response system tailored to human behavior. And it was effective. The first major blow hit when the Reaper's forward overwatch position was ambushed mid-relocation. She escaped, but her leg was crushed under debris. When evac arrived, she refused stretcher assistance. "I'm not done. I just need elevation." She was carried to a new perch, wounded but alert, continuing fire support with a modified scope locked through pain. The real loss came 2 days later. The Ghost triggered a cascade lockdown in a former relay site to delay advancing enemies. He was the only one near the exit point when a fail-safe override engaged. The blast radius was calculated to destroy every active node in the zone, and it did. The Kiro recovered nothing. No body. No gear. Only a message left in their system, unsigned and brief. "I gave them ghosts. Now give them hell." His signal never came back. The commander updated the roster silently. No eulogy. No pause. When asked what they should tell the others, he simply said, "He volunteered for every mission knowing the cost. He knew this one best." The council offered honors. The team ignored them. Mourning wasn't part of their function. The engineer rewired an entire weapons depot into a mobile lab, barely eating, barely speaking. Her new designs grew nastier. Proximity mines that laughed on activation, drones with unpredictable flight paths designed to confuse even learning AIs, EMP bursts disguised as emergency beacons. She smiled less and worked more, muttering code in languages only dead servers understood. The butcher didn't react at all. He just requested a heavier blade and walked out of the base alone. 3 enemy bodies were found 30 hours later. One missing its CPU entirely. Another burned to slag. The third was marked with a word carved into its hull. Ghost. The Reaper, despite her injury, continued overwatch across collapsing terrain. When medics insisted she rest, she replied without looking away from the scope. "They're expecting rest. Let's disappoint them." The surgeon harvested data from fallen enemies, tearing out sensor cores and field-adapting Kiro tools to human surgical standards. He rewrote triage priorities, now listing mission-critical objectives above patient survival. When questioned, he clarified, "You want alive? We want effective. Pick one." The commander stayed still, always in motion mentally. He moved pieces before the board knew a game had started. Every loss was met with reconfiguration. When the Kiro tried to insert a liaison into his team, he declined. "This is our job. You watch, you learn. You don't interfere." Morale among the Kiro fractured. Some viewed the humans as saviors. Others saw them as ticking weapons. Rumors spread that the Ghost had volunteered because he knew what was coming, that Earth didn't just send help, it sent finality. Soldiers whispered that the humans weren't the edge, they were the end. The next mission was to infiltrate a planetary dread relay, the central AI hub connecting all regional control systems. The humans called it the brainstem. Kirill tacticians advised waiting for reinforcements. The humans moved out before consensus. Halfway through the op, everything failed. Maps jammed. Comms cut. The terrain turned against them. Plasma pockets detonated from nowhere. Decoys triggered their own allies, and a second wave of Zarzal arrived already adapted to Earth's last strategies. The engineer took a blast to the chest. Her armor held barely. The butcher dragged her out while under fire, using her own device to remotely detonate a ridge behind them, collapsing the pass and buying time. The surgeon was wounded while retrieving her gear. He didn't flinch, extracted the shrapnel himself mid-run, then stabilized her with nothing but coagulant gel and grit. "You're not dying. We're not done yet." The commander coordinated blind. No visuals, no intel, only timing and intuition. His orders were precise and terrifyingly correct. When backup finally arrived, they found 5 humans alive, surrounded by wreckage, exhausted but standing. And all enemy signal across that region, dead. Back at base, the Kirill tried to debrief the team. The commander cut them off. "They're evolving. So do we. Don't get in the way." The Reaper, stitched and bruised, adjusted her leg brace and returned to her tower. The Butcher began training drills with Kirill rookies using live weapons. The surgeon sterilized tools silently while listening to recordings of old Earth gunfire. The engineer, half-bandaged, began constructing something massive, muttering about final options. Ghost's absence wasn't spoken about again. But everyone felt it. One night, a junior Kirill asked the commander why they fought this hard, why they didn't just send fleets like everyone else. The reply was cold, honest. "Fleets lose. We don't." Another dared ask what happens if even they fail. The commander didn't hesitate. "Then Earth sends the next level. You don't want to see that." The final target was the Queen Corps, a mobile dreadnought the size of a small moon, built to anchor the Zarzul Hive fleet and broadcast command protocols across the sector. Every prior assault against it had failed. Fleets vanished. Planets fell. Kirill strategists called it invincible. The humans didn't. They called it scheduled. The commander outlined the plan without hesitation. Hijack a solar array in the nearby system, trigger a flare, use its radiation burst to disable the Queen Corps' outer shields, and plant a singularity device inside its central AI cradle. No support. No escape routes. No margin for error. When asked if the mission was suicidal, the commander replied, "Only if we die." The team prepared without fanfare. The engineer calibrated the device, small, ugly, devastating. "Planet Cracker," she called it. No dramatics. Just function. The Reaper cleaned her rifle, now fitted with a rail assist module capable of piercing quantum armor. She never looked up. The Butcher sharpened a new blade, made from the alloy of fallen enemy cores. He didn't speak. The surgeon packed surgical tools and high explosives equally. The commander reviewed the enemy's last movement logs and made final adjustments. Ghost's name was on the mission board, crossed out but never erased. They launched in a stealth carrier they stole and rewired, moving blind through gravitic turbulence and radiation spikes. The Zarzul detected them anyway, but too late. By the time defensive cannons activated, the humans were already inside. The dreadnought's interior was biomechanical, pulsing with synthetic veins, lit by red code flowing like blood. The team moved with brutal efficiency, clearing paths, setting decoys, triggering collapses behind them. Every motion was precise. Every breath counted. The Butcher was the first to break formation, staying behind to slow a pursuing wave of drones. He didn't ask. No one questioned it. His last words over comms. "Io Ghost. This'll do." Then static. The rest pushed forward. The Reaper was injured when the passage collapsed under suppressive fire. The engineer rigged a bypass using scavenged parts from her own armor, bleeding and laughing. The Reaper insisted on staying to cover the exit route. "I only need one eye and half a leg to shoot." The commander and the engineer reached the core. It pulsed with synthetic sentience, an eye watching everything, adapting in real time. The engineer activated the device, locked the timer, and handed it over. "No second tries." She stayed to hack the escape route open. The commander moved into the final chamber alone. The Queen Corps' defenses activated instantly, walls shifting, energy surging. The commander didn't flinch. He dropped the device, activated it manually, and transmitted one final message to the Kirill Council. "Queen Corps neutralized. Detonation in 90. Don't waste the window." Then the transmission ended. The blast lit up the sector like a newborn star. The shockwave shredded the Hive fleet's link. Across 3 systems, Zarzul units froze, flickered, and dropped mid-motion. Planets spared annihilation watched the enemy collapse without warning. No fleet. No battle. Just silence where death once screamed. Back on Kiro Prime, the Council received the data core the humans had left behind. Inside were logs, blueprints, final battle plans, and a file labeled Contingency. Its contents horrified them. If the mission failed, the Earth team had prepared 6 planetary sterilization options, each more devastating than the last. One involved igniting a gas giant. Another reprogrammed a captured AI to target all synthetic life across the quadrant. The message below read, "If you're reading this, we didn't lose. We chose the lesser ending." The Reaper survived, found unconscious in orbit, clinging to a twisted piece of armor. The surgeon returned 2 days later, missing an arm, carrying the engineer's broken helmet. He never said where he'd been. He never said how he made it back. 3 humans out of 6 returned. None smiled. None explained. The war was over. The price was paid. When the Council offered medals, they refused. When offered honors, they walked away. When offered command, they left the room. The last message the Kirill ever received from Earth came 1 cycle later. It was brief, unsigned, routed through dozens of scrambled relays. "Do not contact us again. If help is ever needed, you won't ask. We'll know. And if we come back, it means you've failed twice." A decree spread quietly across the surviving civilizations. Earth was not to be disturbed. Not out of anger. Not from fear. But because they had learned what happens when you send for monsters who survive by ending wars others can't. Earth didn't send hope. It sent certainty. And in the silence that followed, the galaxy remembered, if humanity arrives, the end has already begun.